All right, well, it's Flaming Dragon Friday, and I do have to throw some respect to Blaine's way.
I do.
As you'll see on this show, we interviewed Peter Burns.
Yeah.
Peter has a very strong mustache. I mean, Tom Selleck, you want to buy a reverse mortgage strong. Mm-hmm. Blaine promised him that he would follow suit, and you did. And I'm going to be honest, you look good. You actually remind me of half the characters on Death in the Nile.
I haven't seen that, but okay.
Well, it's an Agatha Christie book. It's basically a bunch of guys with mustaches back in the day traveling the Nile, and it's a murder mystery. But it's strong. I think it's strong.
Well, I made a man a promise.
You don't like it, do you?
I mean, I'm not stoked about it.
Why?
I'm just not. But maybe I'll learn to love it.
Yeah.
Maybe it takes some time. It's new. I was enjoying the beard, to be honest, but I made a man a promise. And people don't think the grass be wet in the morning, but it do.
But it did. Oh, wow. That's bad. That's bad.
I'm proud of you.
No, I'm proud of you, too.
That.
The 70s cop vibe, but like I said, you're really
made a man a promise.
In there, understanding you did. And I think you should keep it and let it get illustrious. Well, the real question is, are you going to go to like one of those stores and get like the mustache stuff where, I mean, are you going to
like Raleigh fingers?
Yeah, are you going to go Chef Boyardee on it? Or?
You do that, your slider gets better, your curveball gets, all your off speed gets better.
Oh, for sure.
What are the odds that there is a Twitter handle by the end of today that's Blaine's mustache?
I'll give it till at least by noon tomorrow. And somebody will come up with a great one. But it's Flaming Dragon Friday.
It is.
Got a big show.
Let's go.
And you got a big time mustache.
Appreciate that.
And as a blood relative of yours, I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
The whole House of Stark is proud of you.
Really?
All right.
Love that.
Kyler Murray gets absolutely paid. They opened up the vault in Arizona. Bryan Harsin joins us, and Peter Burns talks everything college football, and him and Blaine talk mustaches. That and more on Crane & Company. It was announced yesterday that Kyler Murray became one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. He signed a deal worth $230.5 million, $160 million guaranteed with injury, and a full guarantee of $105 million. Now, we keep seeing the price tag of not only quarterbacks, but players in the NFL and in college keep going up in general. But the Cardinals are going all in. You match the quarterback with the coach who's offensive-minded in Cliff Kingsbury. Arizona, to me, is on the cusp of achieving greatness or having a chance to put themselves in a position to achieve greatness. And nowadays, in today's game, you have to have a quarterback that is elite. I think Matt Stafford, while he is elite, isn't as elite as some other quarterbacks, but Kyler Murray, with his ability to be dual threat, his ability not to be squared up, and his ability to absolutely put the ball on the money, rolling left, rolling right in the pocket, or in any circumstance, gives the Cardinals a chance to not only make big plays to DeAndre Hopkins and be able to do things in the run game with the zone read and the RPO, but big-time players want to play with big-time quarterbacks. Kyler Murray is a long-term draw. The Cardinals will never have to worry, really, about having to talk a big-time wide receiver or a big-time tight end to come to Arizona because they know Kyler can deliver them the ball. Now, Kyler just has to do it in the postseason, something that he can really do. But when I looked at this, I think it shows you how smart of a businessman that Kyler Murray is. Remember when he was flirting with baseball and being the number 1 overall pick? Well, look at that contract compared to the one that he just signed. Let's just say he passed go and he will collect his $200. Kyler Murray, to me, has a chance to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. Is he yet? No. But he's still a little wet behind the ears when it comes to working in Cliff Kingsbury's system as he keeps growing in it. Not that he doesn't know it, but they can keep adding to it and evolving to it as the chemistry increases. But his ability to extend plays, not only within the pocket, but outside the pocket as well. We've seen Kyler run around. We've seen Kyler improvise. We've seen Kyler be able to take off and hit you for 35, 40, 50 yards. Now, is he a Lamar Jackson type runner? In some senses, yes. I think Kyler can hit the home run, watch him run. But Kyler, Russell Wilson, Lamar, even though Lamar does take a few more chances, and there's a handful maybe of other guys in the league that do a really good job of not getting squared up. And we all know Kyler Murray is not the biggest guy on the planet. He isn't a guy that can go in there and take 10, 12 hits a game, running and scrambling and doing crazy things and be able to be injury-free throughout a football season. But his escapability and really his invisibility when it comes to people trying to hit him make him absolutely dangerous. So I want to bring in David Cohn, Blaine here. Kyler's potential's through the roof. I think if you're a DeAndre Hopkins, I know you got to sit out 6 games, whatever. But if you're a big-time receiver, you are very excited to know that you have a quarterback that's going to be able to deliver the potato whenever you need it.
We made a top 10 quarterback list in the NFL the other day. I didn't have Kyler Murray on there.
I didn't either.
I had some people reach out to me. I had him more in the 12, 13, 14 range. I agree that he has a higher ceiling. I don't see Kyler Murray being a top 5 quarterback. The goal for Arizona paying him this money, though, is not for him to be a top 5 quarterback. It's to win championships. I also didn't have Matt Stafford in the top 5. I had him 7, I think, maybe 8, something like that. And they just won the Super Bowl. So can the Arizona Cardinals win a championship with Kyler Murray is all they're worried about. I still don't know if he will be a Super Bowl winner. But I think that the Arizona Cardinals had to do this, right? Because when you brought in Cliff Kingsbury, you drafted Kyler Murray number 1 overall for that reason, for that system. I also didn't think he'd win the Heisman Trophy. He did that. I didn't think he'd go number 1 overall. He did that. So while it is tough for me to square a quarterback that I don't see as being in the top 10 right now, being paid number 2 overall money, this is sort of what I was saying with Lamar Jackson when they were talking about pay him Patrick Mahomes money. While that's tough to square, at some point, the market is what it is, and you can't let a guy go after you've established your franchise on that foundation.
No, I'm with you. Blaine, I mean, you've always been a big Kyler Murray fan. I mean, it's his game translates. I just think his ceiling is so high. There's not many guys that have the potential to be a top 5
I think you can legitimately look at it and have Kyler Murray in your top 10. I think you get from 8 to 10, then you start the little minute things become the difference. Almost whatever flavor you like the most, you can put it in there. I mean, the kid got drafted in 2019, so he has a long career ahead of him. The Cardinals, one thing they're going to have to do, DeAndre Hopkins not getting any younger. He's out for 6 games this season. They're going to have to build and get guys around him to be able to win championships. Because I do think any top 10 quarterback, realistically, is good enough to win a Super Bowl in my eyes. I really think that. But you go back to Kyler, and the big thing with me is you match Kyler with Cliff Kingsbury. Those two are a perfect fit, especially for what Cliff wants to do. And I know it'll probably only they'll figure Cliff out a little bit more as the years goes. That's just the way it works when you're offensive coordinator. But when you have a guy like Kyler Murray, they're so hard to figure out because you don't know what he's going to do. The difference between Kyler and Lamar's on a running team. But most of the time, they're on a
running tight end.
They're going to get downhill. They're going to give you the option look. Kyler's more in the shotgun. In my opinion, he's a better thrower. One thing, Kyler, I do think his arm strength needs to get better. If you want to win championships, he can put it from 10 to 20, 25 on a rope, but he needs to be able to throw that seam shot down the field a little bit better. But I still think defense, J.J. Watt's not getting any younger, Chandler Jones is not getting any younger. You're going to have to find guys. They got Simmons from Clemson, who I think's an absolute dog, the outside linebacker. But I do think Kyler Murray's good enough to win a championship one day. It's going to be some time. I think he's 21 and 22 as a starter right now. Haven't really played good in the playoffs, but the Cardinals aren't a great team right now. So I think the more time goes, you're an NFL team. You got to have a chance to win it, and you got to have a guy. And they've said, this is my guy for the future.
For sure. Well, again, you have to have that part of the recipe. You have to have the quarterback and the play caller that fits the system, the quarterback that can give you a chance. The one thing I will say about Cliff Kingsbury that worries me, if you look at Cliff Kingsbury's record, first 6, 7 games, 8 games of the season, it's really good. But that back half of the season, it totally falls off a cliff. He has got to start getting better at you make changes and you're malleable at the beginning of the year going into the season. You have all that time. Hey, we know our identity. We know the offense we want to run, but we want to make these wrinkles. Well, defenses catch up about once you get to self-scout. Now, they're always scouting you, but I would love to see the self-scout numbers of the Cardinals throughout the whole season, because at some point, I guess they're trying to make adjustments and it's not working, or maybe the book gets out on them and Cliff's worried about making adjustments. He has got to do a better job, and that staff has got to do a better job of putting those guys in a position to be able to make adjustments throughout the year. That's the hardest part of coaching and play calling for me is, all right, you figured out this has worked for us. They're going to try and make you dribble left-handed. That's what a defense's job is. I'm going to take away your strength, and you're going to have to beat me with your weakness. And the Cardinals have not been able to kind of flip that script or stay, I guess, ahead of the chains, per se, when it comes to play calling. So that's something I'm really looking at as well. But you cannot get to Valhalla nowadays if you don't have a quarterback that can do it in a system that fits that quarterback. Because eventually, guys, you know as well as I do, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Matt Stafford, whether it's, the older guys, Kirk Cousins, guys like that, they become OCs. I mean, they're running that offense. Why? You do have a microphone in your helmet that's telling you this, that, and the other, but they eventually run that offense. So I'm very interested to see Kyler's growth from the mental standpoint of the game, because I think it's only going to get stronger with him and Cliff. But I am with Blaine. For them to be able to see the mountaintop, it's up front. It's at the quarterback position, which they've solidified. Now they got to continue putting pieces around them, not only offensively, but defensively
I think
as well.
Cliff Kingsbury should use Sean McVay as a blueprint, right?
Yeah.
Because that offensive year that he had a few seasons ago, one of the best in history, you get to the Super Bowl, you're facing the greatest defensive coach of all time in Bill Belichick, you do nothing in the Super Bowl, you lose that game, didn't have a great season the next year, you think like, oh, okay, was that a one-hit wonder? Did they figure Sean McVay out, comes back last year and wins the Super Bowl. So that would be something great for Cliff Kingsbury to build off of and continue to evolve.
I still think the Cardinals need to get guys for Kyler.
Oh, well,
you go back,
always.
I mean, you go back. Sean McVay's great offense. Cooper Kupp, top 2 receiver. I mean, you had your left tackle who retired, Whitworth over the one of the best tackles.
Come in.
You had OBJ.
And they
players are going to win.
They had Todd Gurley.
Yeah, and you have
Super Bowl
Aaron
year.
Donald, in my opinion, probably the best defensive player ever. So, I mean, players are going to win you games.
Yeah, I would still take Reggie White over Aaron Donald just because Reggie White was an absolute monster. I think people kind of sleep on Reggie White.
That'd be a good argument.
I'll take either.
Yeah. You know what? I'll take
Should be good.
Get him on
I'll
my
take
team.
both. Yeah, I'll take the all-star
Should be
special.
good, yeah.
I'll take both.
Selfish.
But guys, too, we were talking about, what do we want to lead with today? And there's kind of some big news. And yesterday, this breaking news kind of got some play, but the NCAA, and I hate to come on here and always trash the NCAA, but they recommended that there be just free-for-all in the transfer world in college football. An absolute free-for-all. Because right now you have the one-time transfer rule. Remember, we didn't have that before. If you were transferring up, from FCS to Division I, or you were transferring, laterally, you had to sit a year. If you transferred down, you could play immediately. Well, now they're saying, you know what? You can just transfer wherever, whenever. And I was always a player's coach. I'm always for the players. But at some point, we have to have rules. Because it is going to be impossible to build a culture in a locker room if everybody is just leaving left and right. They come and face adversity for 3 weeks and then they're able to leave. It is the opposite of what you should learn from a team sport like football. We always say football is a great teacher of life because you have got to grow with teammates around you. It does not work if your teammates are not in conjunction with you or everybody isn't swimming in the same way, and that you face adversity and you overcome it. A lot of people get home, not just players, a lot of people that go to college get homesick. Even people going right down the road. I mean, we were talking with David Pollock. He's like, I went 45 minutes down the road and I was still homesick. But if you're allowed the easy way out every time it gets tough, you're never gonna grow. You have to sometimes face failure and look in the eyes and overcome it. Now there's situations, and I'm gonna lay out my perfect transfer portal scenarios, the way it should be built here in a second, but sometimes facing that dragon or facing, whatever is guarding the gate from you getting to where you wanna be makes you better. Adversity reveals character. It shows you. But these kids nowadays being able to say, you know what? Well, I came in, I was a 5-star freshman and all this hoopla about me, and I came in, now I got to earn my job. Now I got to beat out an older guy that's been here for 2 or 3 years. I feel like this could ruin the sport quicker than anything. The on-the-field product's going to be fine, but this is just another absolute stab to the whole point of team sports in general. So when I look at this, here's what I think the perfect transfer portal guidelines should be. If you go to a school, I'm fine with the one-time transfer rule. You can transfer, one time for free outside of being in the same conference. I feel like if you transfer in the same conference, you should have to sit out a year unless the head coach leaves or is fired. I feel like if the head coach leaves or is fired, I don't care if you transfer to the school he gets fired from. I feel like that should give you the opportunity to leave because that's the head man. That's the guy you ultimately went there to play for. I don't care if you went from LSU to Utah and Utah's head coach got fired. I'm fine with that. But the fact that we can let kids go from Alabama to LSU without the head coach being fired, without sitting out a year, to me is that opens up a can of worms that is unbelievably scary. If you want to transfer from UCLA to Ohio State, that one-time transfer rule laterally, I'm fine with that.
Until 2024. Then they're in the same conference.
That's exactly right. Until 2024, and then I'm not fine with it. Unless the head coach gets fired from UCLA. So, to me, this is what I was always afraid of because this is basically free agency. Now, you could say, all right, well, at least free agents have to wait, for a certain extent. So it's really streamlined.
Exactly.
Free agency. We talk about NIL and people say, oh, well, pay for play is going to ruin the sport. Well, the market's going to fix itself because that's what markets do, especially free markets. But when it comes to this, the fabric of college sports, the fabric of team sports, if I am a coach, how in the hell am I supposed to build any chemistry in that locker room? How are we supposed to have any transition from the older guys to the younger guys, and the young guys watch these old guys work? The old guys told them, stick with it, when you can just say, you know what? Oh, it's so hard now. And at what point you can have freedom, but there also has to be rules. Like I can't go drive 200 miles an hour down the interstate and say, oh, well, I just have freedom. There's rules. There's a speed limit. So it's not some free-for-all utopian college athletics society. And it just goes to show you, NCAA, just leave. Just disappear. Just die. Can we just ignore the NCAA? Can we let the NCAA die the death it deserves in silence? You people are the most corrupt. You held all the money. You held the players hostage. And now you've just totally flipped the script and you're breaking the sports. Can we just please let the NCAA walk the plank, go into the ocean, cannonball tied to your shoes, see you later? Because you people are the worst. I'll look you in the eyes and tell you, you guys are the worst. You are a plague to sports. So to the NCAA, can we please just get rid of them? Just anytime the NCAA, no, doesn't matter. Let's make Greg Sankey the college football commissioner or the commissioner of college sports. Let's follow the rules laid out just like I said, which to me is totally fair. But Cone, the NCAA is the worst thing to happen to sports in a long, long, long time. And I cannot wait to never utter those 4 words together again, or 4 letters together again, because there's some 4-letter words I want to call them, but I can't say on this show.
What does NCAA stand for?
Never cared about anything except
athletes,
themselves.
right?
No, hell no.
Oh, anything.
Not athletes.
You're going
now.
above and
They
beyond.
care all of it.
They care about money.
Nothing.
This, this transfer portal elimination right now, it's opening it up to be able to transfer whenever you want. It doesn't increase parity. It hurts parity.
It's going to kill parity.
It doesn't instill responsibility in young men or young women. It hurts responsibility. So I don't care if you're the best player on your college team or the worst player. You get frustrated. I don't care if you went to the school that's in your hometown or you went 1,000 miles away from home. You get homesick, to your point. That's why we need the institutions to lay out some ground rules. My frustrations when I was at college was, well, I signed up for a 4-year commitment. Why do you get to renew me every year? Right? Or get rid of me after a year or something like that.
Yeah.
This is what I've been saying is like there's a difference, there's a middle ground between that sort of exploitation that I was frustrated with and at the same time, you can just go anywhere, wherever you want at any time. That's not right, and it's going to hurt college athletics.
They've gone from one spectrum to the other, Blaine. They went from literally hogging all the money and running a monopoly and not letting anybody do anything to all of a sudden letting anybody do anything they want. Let it burn. It's
they're deliberately trying to poison college football.
You think so?
I think at this point they're just trying to ruin college football.
So that legislation gets involved?
So there has to be something. It has to be something because this is ridiculous. What are you supposed to do? That's what education doesn't matter. Football's turned into a me sport. I couldn't do it because I don't know how you're supposed to be in a guy locker room. How are you supposed to push your teammates?
Yeah.
You know, when they can just say, you know what? No, I don't have to do this. I'll just go here. I'll just do this. How are you supposed to be a captain? How are you supposed to coach a guy? Like, really, how are you supposed to get on a guy? Like, really get on a guy without him just fading away. Just fading away. I couldn't do it. Football, this is just the worst thing that can happen in football. There has to be some, or it's just going to be in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, and you're just not going to be able to live with it.
And you know what? And if you don't like it, if you don't like rules, don't play.
Yeah.
Don't play. This isn't China. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. Like, don't play. If you don't like rules, then don't play. Sit out, lift weights, run, wait till you're old enough to get drafted, whatever. Go to University of Phoenix for 3 years. Well, I don't care. Go to the USFL. I'm telling you right now, the USFL, look, and they're starting to celebrate it. Sal Cannella just went from the USFL to the Packers, and the USFL is like, look, guys, look, the USFL's turned into the G League.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're smart, they'll go and start plucking some of these high school kids.
And I'm all for it.
And that's fine. That's fine. But if you don't like the rules, then stay your ass at home. Nobody is forcing you to do anything. So at this point, you know, with the NCAA, I was done with you before, but it's I think it was Kenny Powers that said, I wish nothing but unhappiness for you. And that's what I do. To me, when I think of the NCAA, I think about the Harry Potter, like, trials when they're looking at it, you know, in like the big gray room, and it's like dark and dense, and you have all these lawyers and stuff sitting there. It's just an absolute cesspool. We got to get these guys out. And if you don't like rules, and if you don't want to make rules, then don't play the sport. Just go invent your own thing. But it's absolutely disgusting to me. But you know what's not disgusting? Bryan Harsin.
Coach Bryan Harsin?
Coach Bryan Harsin. Very excited to talk with Coach Harsin at SEC Media Days. Going into year 2, the adversity that he faced in the offseason. This is a great interview. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, very excited to be here with the Auburn head football coach at Media Days, Bryan Harsin. Coach, I appreciate you taking a second. You know, year 2, obviously, the culture, getting it where you want to, roster kind of changing a little bit, but the togetherness of this team with what you guys have been through, and like you said, the past is the past. Only time you look in the past is a game film to get better for the next week. Can you talk about the togetherness of this team and what it means to you and the players to have gone through what y'all have gone through? Because, I mean, that's got to bring you all even closer.
Well, I think we've seen it. You know, we got 3 great players here representing our program, and they've done a phenomenal job. But it's really about the present and the future, right?
For sure.
And like you said, we'll go back and watch the game film. We'll talk about the past that way and learn from it. But right now, it's about what are we doing right now and what are we doing moving forward to get where we want to go and to build this program into the type of team that we all want to be. And, you know, right now I think our guys are focused on that. And from what I've seen, the chemistry, cohesiveness, all that has just been as good as we could expect at this point right now. And if we get into fall camp, we're going to find out what that all looks like back in real football again. But I'm really proud of our players, proud of our coaches, proud of this team and where we are right now.
Yeah, and all the signals coming out is the togetherness is off the charts.
Coach, you're one of the best in the country when it comes to offensive schematics, but the head coach has a lot more responsibilities than just game planning. So how do you balance being the head coach but also being involved with the game plan, not just throughout the week, but also during a game in the heat of battle?
Yeah, just simplifying and really keeping the main thing the main thing. I mean, that's what I look at every single day, because you're right. You can get distracted. Players can get distracted. We all can. The most important people in our building are our players, period. Our coaching staff, our support staff, what are we doing in those areas? That's going to be my focus. And then everything else outside of that, I'll get to it, but we got to make sure our players each and every day and our staff, you know, has what they need to be successful. And we're trying to create an environment every day that someone can do their best work in. All right, and that's what we need to have for our players, and so that means football. And we don't talk enough about football. It's a lot about everything else. And I told our staff this the other day. I'm like, guys, I'll be shocked if somebody asked me, like, you know, what's my favorite 3rd and 8 play? And it's just not. But that's really what it's about, because guess what? 3rd and 8's really, really important in a game.
Yes, it is.
Fundamentals of the game of football are really important. Blocking, tackling, what your stance is. It all matters. So I've gotten to a point now where, in my career as a head coach, of really looking at things and going, okay, well, that's not the priority now. I'm going to get to it, but number one is our players. What are we doing to develop our players, all right? What do they need from us as coaches? What do our coaches need from me to help them do their jobs? And And then it just works down from there. And sometimes that means being uncomfortable saying no at a certain point, that I'm not going to do that right now, but I'm going to do it eventually. But these are the things we got to focus on in the moment.
Yes, sir.
One more quick one, Coach.
Absolutely. Well, you lost some guys on defense, but you're bringing one key piece back, and that's Owen Papo. He did miss some of the season last year. How big is him coming back for a leadership role for the defense?
Well, Owen was here last year, and the reason he was because he's a leader.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he didn't get to play much,
I know.
if any, last year. But the impact he makes on this team as a leader, who he is, what he brings to the table, he'll have his time to shine.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And he's one of the best football players we have. He's one of the best people that we have. And so he's been working extremely hard to put himself in a position to have a great year. And we all know that when he's out there on the football field, we are better.
Oh, yeah.
And there is no question about it. And I would say, like, these guys that are here representing us right now, that comes from guys like Owen.
Absolutely.
All right? They get to see him every single day leading and doing what he needs to do to help our football team, being unselfish, and allowing guys around him to learn from him and bringing guys with him. So, to me, I'm excited. I know he's going to have a great year. He's a key component to the success of this football team and certainly our defense. And he's just a leader that brings guys with him, and his impact will show throughout this year.
Awesome.
Well, Coach, thank you so much. Best of luck. We're going to be keeping up with you, and I appreciate you taking the time.
All right, thank you, War Eagle.
All right, guys. Well, again, Bryan Harsin. To me, and we interviewed Bryan Harsin last year. He seems a little bit different to me. He seems a little more open. I mean, shoot, he held the mic.
I like Coach.
I
Harsin,
look.
man.
I like the
like
guy
Coach
too.
Harsin.
I like the guy too when he got hired, and we're gonna have Takeo Spikes on and talk to him about this, but I just hope that Bryan Harsin has some success, and that the higher ups at Auburn let him have full control of the party, because I do think you are going to have to win to show them a little bit to give you full control. Now you could say, oh well, Gus made it to the national championship game and they never gave him full control, and I get it. They didn't, but I don't think Gus really wanted full control like that.
Give him a legitimate chance. And then if he fails, look, it's hard to win in the SEC. It's hard to win anywhere in the conference. If the guy fails, then he knows that he tried everything he could and he failed.
Yeah.
Right? And then you move on. Both parties move on. But I don't know. You guys know the inner workings of Auburn better than I do as it relates to athletics and the head coach. But I like Coach Bryan Harsin. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not in the locker room. I want him to succeed.
Well, I feel like he came out extremely strong during his time during SEC Media Day.
Yeah.
He was open but strong and felt poised, and you felt like it was right where he needed to be. And to get past this, I mean, at some teams this will hurt, but some teams this brings together a lot more than what you expected. And there are some leaders left in that locker room. He was talking about Tank and the way he's changed and his work ethic. I think Auburn can be a good team. And now Auburn's the type of team, kind of like Tennessee a little bit last year, where a lot of people weren't expecting a lot from them, and come out and won some big games. You go back to that, Tennessee left a lot of wins out on the field. Auburn could be that team this year that the expectations are this, but could sneak up on some people, because Auburn will always have tradition. Auburn will always have, Jordan Hare's a hell of a place to play.
Yeah.
You better show up and be ready to play when you get there. But Auburn could sneak on some guys. And being an Auburn fan, I wish only success for Bryan Harsin. I really want it. I really want to see it. Because I think he's a great guy and a great coach.
Yeah, and Blaine, you talk about togetherness. There's something to be said. We always talk about coaches are having to find a way to have like a chip on the shoulder, right? You got to have a rallying cry in those meeting rooms and stuff. Well, think about it. You didn't play well at the end of last year, basically blew the Bama game, and then all the stuff happens with Bryan Harsin. So the players and the coaches have both faced adversity, and when you're able to put those things together, that can be a big-time force and a motivator for 18 to 22-year-olds. There's a lot of guys, especially when you trim the fat and you get the prima donnas out of there, and you get the divas and the players that are just there thinking the coaches should just be my friend, instead of somebody that's a mentor or somebody supposed to push me, because a coach's job is to push a player further than they can push themselves. The guys that understand that, you get enough of those guys in the locker room and it starts to bleed through, because there is talent on that roster. Now, Auburn's not going to be the most talented team on the field for probably half, maybe a little bit more than half of the games they play in the SEC, and I may be overselling them a little bit. But they do have experience. They do have veterans that kind of know the ways to kind of manipulate things and maybe add that extra half second in pass pro or do things like that. Or even if you're a little bit slower going against a DB that may be able to get out of his break faster, you can get off the top of your break, knowing how to manipulate him with your eyes and body and stuff like that. So I do think, like Blaine's saying, Auburn could sneak up on some people. But if Bryan Harsin gets an inch, if they just give him an inch, I think he could take a mile and run with it. And I think he's the type of guy where once you do have that big year, you say, all right, you wanted me to prove it. I proved it. It's proven. I've got it done. So give me the keys to the car and I'm going to drive this thing. Because I think that's what he wants. I think Gus didn't want that. I think Gus didn't want that.
Gus was cool with riding shotty?
Gus was cool with riding shotgun and pointing out the pretty sights and, taking the selfies. I think that Bryan Harsin is more of a, I want to steer the ship. I'm the captain now. I think he's one of the
I think one thing you can't forget, especially from last year, Auburn lost their starting quarterback. I mean, that's tough to deal with as a head coach, as a program. And you go back and look at the games they lost. Without him, I believe it was South Carolina, Mississippi State, and then that Bama game. I mean, and those are all
hurt during the Mississippi State game.
During the Mississippi State game, and Mississippi State did what? Came back. So, and Auburn, I believe, had 2 losses before that, maybe A&M and Georgia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you never know how a season goes, but when you lose your starting quarterback, man, I mean, that's how important depth is. But I still think that's just a tough thing to deal with. And, Auburn could sneak up with some people this year.
They could. It's going to be very interesting to see. But we really appreciate Bryan Harsin. We do have Tank Bigsby coming on next week. Very excited to talk with him. Very fly suit. But Tank, funny kid, too. But no, another great interview we had. And speaking of mustaches, Peter Burns.
PB, I got you,
a.k.a. Goose's son. A little more holistic approach outside of Auburn here, talking some SEC and college football in general. Very interesting to see what Peter has to say about revenues and stuff like that, how with ticket prices and TV rights, because that's an angle. I think a lot of people, it's not registering yet. So Peter Burns, ESPN and the SEC Network, joins us now.
All right, everybody, very excited to welcome in SEC Network superstar and also Goose's son, Peter Burns. What's up, brother? I appreciate you coming up.
Thank you. I've been called a whole lot worse with the stash.
That's all I got.
Like, it's ridiculous. So I was waiting because I
think it looks good.
You know what? It's something. It's an adjective. I don't know if good is the actual word. So the idea was that we were coming in, we were doing the shows, and I had just seen Top Gun. Yes. And I was like, hey, we'll do this stupid thing where on Monday, what every single coach's call sign would be. Like, for Mike Leach, it would be Sparrow because of Jack Sparrow, the Pirates, stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, this will be good. I'll do it on Monday and I'll shave it. So what ends up happening is I wake up Monday morning and I've got like 3 weeks of scruff, right? Yeah. Like it looks like we've been on vacation. And so, I shave and don't think anything of it. And I put the towel up and I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, perfection. This thing is aggressive and it might bite me. And and I come down and I mean, literally, Chris Dory, my co-host, he falls down just crying. And then all of a sudden it becomes a big deal. And then like Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, comes over and he's like, what the hell is this mustache, man? And I'm like, and now it's become a thing. And now people are like, please God, shave it. And I'm like, no, I feel like I live in the stash now. Like, when people have a stash, it's like a little fraternity. Like I see people across the room and we're like, hey. And it's like, it's not even me. I feel like it's the stash taking over myself and my body that makes me wink and do that.
Stashes talk to each other.
Well, Peter, it also adds 2 miles per hour to your fastball.
That's all I'm asking
people don't
for.
realize
I've
that.
got plus stuff right now. Soto couldn't hit it. But
well, I mean, they'd have to pay him $450.
But you see, that wasn't even me. That was the stash talk.
I know, it's amazing. Wow. It's got a life of its own.
It's like Venom, but with a mustache.
I had no idea.
Did you see the meme that said, for all of you who want to grow a standalone mustache and you think you're going to look like Goose, just keep in mind 98% will look like Officer Farva from Super Troopers. Yeah. You are that 2%. No, I mean, you are that 2% though.
I mean, it's hilarious because my wife has told me, she's like, I hope SEC Media Days is about 2 weeks long. So go live this like little mustache life that you have and get it out of your system. But I mean, listen, I've had Ted Lasso this week. I've had Ron Burgundy.
I could see Ted Lasso.
Like,
I can see Ted Lasso.
Yeah, so I'll morph it to any character it needs to be, and it's full of characters. Yeah. When are you going to join the stash team?
I will. It'll be done by tonight.
Blaine.
No. We have that on tape. Say that on tape one more time.
It will be done by tonight.
Well, Blaine has fallen peer pressure to fans and facial hair. He tried to grow. He did this beard about a month ago.
I'm still.
He got a little.
Still new for me.
A little insecurity called him a couple times, and he shaved it. But
I'm not a big. You grow it out too long, it turns red, and I'm not a big red guy when it comes to
join the team.
Yeah, you're not a big red guy yet. Your shirt is
Color's fine, but
big red
on the
collar.
face is different. It's just different.
Okay, I can respect that. But, speaking about standalones, everybody's talking about Alabama and Georgia. And look, I'm not betting against them. I'm taking Alabama versus the field. But when you look around the rest of the Southeastern Conference, to me, it's one of the most exciting times because you're starting to see this kind of resurgency from the East, too. We know what the West is with Tennessee. There's a lot of momentum with South Carolina, even though I believe in Spencer Rattler about as much as I believe in the Snuffleupagus. But when you see the SEC this year and what it could be in 2 to 3 years, too, with some of these young classes coming in, I mean, it's a great time to be a fan.
Yeah, and it's a great time because why does the NFL work so well? Is because of the amount of parity that they have, right? And I mean, you can look at any kind of division and go, all right, well, this team might be 8-7 this year, or this team, or 9-8. However, now they added the 17th game. But I feels like that's the way that college football is at, especially in the best conference of college football, which is the SEC. And right now, it's only going to get better as far as parity wise, because it used to be the Georgias and the Alabamas could take off. But now what's happening is that you have 2 signing periods, okay? So let's say you grab your needs in the first signing period. If you whiff on that, you got the second signing day, okay? So you could do that. And if you whiff on that, you have the transfer portal.
Exactly.
And so now you got guys like Wan'Dale Robinson saying, you know what, I want to play, but he doesn't go to Georgia. He doesn't go to Alabama or A&M. He goes to Kentucky and then makes Will Levis's life a whole lot easier. And that's going to happen more and more in college football. And it's going to happen in every single sport as well. We're seeing it in college baseball. We're seeing it in college hoops right now, other types of sporting events in athletics, is that the best of the best play in the SEC.
For sure.
And despite my mustache, I say we have the best network that covers it as well.
No,
too.
look, I think because of your mustache.
and it's funny because I don't know how Greg Sankey does it, because you could tell he's feeling it like this week, and he knows that they're the power broker. And I would just be so much more even obnoxious than I already am. When you know that you are the man and you rule college football. But I think that's the brilliance of his leadership right now, is that he knows he has all of college athletics by the palm of his hand, but he doesn't force that. He doesn't use that power. I mean, remember the alliance, or whatever it was called that has now broken up, Greg Sankey had said, listen, we're going to provide you an opportunity. Pac-12, Big 12, these conferences, you're in right now. Let's go. Highest top 5 conferences, you get a seat at the table. And those alliances, they said, well, we're not interested in that. Let's wait. But they're pretty interested now.
That's exactly right.
And the warning signals were all there, and none of them took it.
Well,
so what's happened?
He's going to be the commissioner of college football eventually. I think we're moving that, and there will be one. And Greg Sankey, at least if he wants it, which I think he's, because they always say you don't judge somebody by how they get power, you judge them by what they do when they have it. Because a lot of people change when they get power.
And that was the biggest BS narrative that was out there, was when people were coming up and saying, "Oh, well, I don't trust the college football playoff now because of Texas and Oklahoma, and this was all Sankey." I'm like, I firmly believe in, knowing Greg Sankey the way I have this many years, is that he does look at things and he's able to compartmentalize. All right, I'm working on this project right now. What can I do the best for college football playoff? I'm part of this thing. Let's do it. And then I think he can turn and take a switch off and go, what's the best for the SEC?
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to be this move. And so when people said, oh, well, he's this puppet master, I'm like, no. I was like, we need more people like Sankey that say, you know what, I could take advantage of a situation, but I'm not. And I thought it was extremely unfair that they put him in that situation.
I agree, and I'm going to kick it to Conan Blaine here in a second, but A&M is fascinating to me because I think they're a year away. I mean, if you look 2 years down the road, Max Johnson's a guy that Cone's high on. That with Jimbo, we've seen him turn E.J. Manuel into an NFL draft pick, turn Kellen Mond into an NFL draft pick. So we know his resume with quarterbacks, what he was able to do with Jameis at Florida State too. When you look at A&M this year, do you think this is the year before the precipice, or do you think that they're going to make a move this year, a big move?
The former. I'd be surprised that they're better than 10-2 this year, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you take a look at the SEC West being like the 27 Yankees, it's a murderer's row of opponents this year. It's incredibly tough. But again, I think the pressure now is, how do you build it on in 2023? And that's really the expectation level. And it'll be kind of curious about how Jimbo approaches that this week and throughout the season. I remember Butch Jones, when he first took over Tennessee. I came and we were getting ready. We were filming something like this, kind of off the record. And I was like, so what are you going to, like, what's your expectation? And he's like, and he kind of tells me, he's like, well, I don't think we're going to be great. We got this issue. But he goes, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to come out here on camera and say, hey, fan base, it's a building process. He's like, no. He's like, I got to believe, and I got to get my fan base to believe. I got everybody to believe that this is going to be a year. And that's a tough balancing act for a coach to say, what are the realistic expectations versus what your fan base wants to hear.
That's true. And it's not only the fan base, it's the players that's watching. I mean,
Sure.
if you sit here and say, we're going to be down, I mean, how would I ever
Clark
believe
Lee
you?
called himself
the greatest college football program
programs. But I don't want a coach that's not going to say that.
Sure.
Like, how the hell would you play for somebody like that?
No, I'm with it.
Well, let's go to LSU. Ed Orgeron's tenure had a rough conclusion to it. Brian Kelly was the winningest coach in Notre Dame history.
Yeah.
He leaves that to come to LSU. What's a realistic ceiling for them this season?
I mean, realistic ceiling, they could be just kind of this spoiler that goes all of a sudden 11-1. You're thinking, wait a minute, what just happened? I mean, they have as much talent as really anybody. As far as you're looking at talent on the roster, they're probably the third most talented team. The question is who's going to win the quarterback position, and who's going to be QB1 at the start of the year. But it was told to me through a lot of people throughout college football that as soon as LSU had hired not an adult in the room, but someone that was really focused on the organization of a program.
Stepdad.
To watch out.
Yeah.
That this thing, when it gets streamlined, you better win your titles now because LSU has the money, they've got the facilities, they've got the fan base, they've got all of this talent in state that Nick knew, and that's how he, got his and trampolined his career. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of people that are going to be looking at that. But I am fascinated about LSU hiring Brian Kelly the same time that Billy Napier was hired at Florida, because Scott Woodward, the athletic director at LSU, could have just gone down the road in Lafayette and said, "Hey, Billy Napier, you're my guy." So we're going to get a chance to see both of these teams starting at the starting line at the same time. Is it going to be Billy Napier in Florida? Is it going to be LSU and Brian Kelly that win?
Well, we talked about LSU and said with structure, they're as scary as anybody in the planet,
and that's the brilliance of what I would say Kirby has done now. But that was always the brilliance of what Nick Saban did. Nick Saban was not the greatest X and O coach. The brilliance of Saban is that he took an NFL philosophy and brought it into Tuscaloosa and said, everything that we're doing is behind the scenes, the infrastructure, the amount of people, support staff that they have to put them in a situation to get better players and to have results. And that's what Kirby did. The first time I met with Kirby, Kirby says, I got to need this, this, and this from Georgia. Day one. I'm not taking the job unless I got it. And they said, okay. That's the same thing Billy Napier just told me a month ago. Said, during the pandemic, I wrote down 30 things that I need. And then whenever I looked at it, I went to Scott Strickland, the athletic director, and said, can I get this? And if you get that, it's the behind the scenes stuff that people don't know, the fans don't see, that leads, that paves that road to success.
Yeah. Then it's truly on me.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
truly
Then you got
on
it.
me when
Yeah.
I focus.
There's no excuses when it comes to that. When you talk about Brian Kelly, let's talk about Notre Dame. You think it was the right move for Notre Dame not to join a conference?
Yeah, I mean, they're using it as leverage right now, I would imagine. I mean, if I'm Notre Dame, you dodge what could have been a conference realignment bullet during the pandemic. The reason why I say that is the ACC was sitting there and Notre Dame needed opponents to play, right? Mm-hmm. They've always had a good relationship, but without the ACC, Notre Dame wouldn't have been able to play football in 2020, and that would have been a lot of money down the drain. And so what should have happened is the ACC said, Notre Dame, I'll give you all the opponents you won in 2020 during the pandemic, but here's the deal. You have to at least join this conference. We'll share television revenue for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever it is. They did not do that. And now what happens? The ACC locks into a deal where, they're probably not going to be making as much money as everybody else, and Notre Dame can stay independent. But had you put Notre Dame in the ACC, all of a sudden that changes the perception of that conference a whole heck of a lot. So, I mean, they're smart to stay independent. I mean, they hold the biggest hammer right now. And I don't believe that if, like, let's say Greg Sankey comes up in the college football playoff committee and works on that competition committee and says, I don't think he's going to make them join a conference, because if they're going to do that, they're not going to join the SEC. More than likely, they would join the Big Ten, would be my guess, or the ACC. And I don't think they're going to force that. So stay independent and now figure out. I mean, I'm fascinated about the Pac-12, Big 12. Yeah, like it was almost like gentlemen battlefield back in the day. Like, would you like a truce? And they're like, no, we're good. They're like, just so you know, I offered. And now, how aggressive is the Big 12 going to go? Because everybody's trying to push the top two conferences with the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's just nuts. The Big 12 and the Pac-12 traded places. Yeah, look at it. My last question for you, Peter. I appreciate you joining us. Auburn and Bryan Harsin.
Yeah,
you're going into year 2. You look at the quarterback situation. You look at the roster. And I feel like he's got to win, I mean, at least 7, probably 8, maybe 7 in the regular season, and then win the bowl game, or they're going to get him out of there. How do you feel about Bryan Harsin in Auburn in year 2?
I did not, from the outside looking in, I didn't get a chance to meet Bryan Harsin the first year that he was there. So everything you hear is kind of, secondhand, and you hear all the rumors and you hear all this, message board and boosters saying this and that. So I'm thinking, all right, well, that's just kind of weird. And then I sat down with him and had about 30-minute conversation, and we've talked, and I'm like, how is this guy not going to be successful at Auburn? And, everything that he talks about, I believe it. Like, he has that thing where he walks in a room, and I think he's going to get guys to play hard for him. So it would be disappointing. Now, they play their first 5 games at home.
Yep.
So that's a huge thing for them. I mean, it feels like an Auburn-Penn State game in Jordan-Hare is going to be nuts.
Massive.
And I hope they beat the ever-living you-know-what out of them, because I want to see Harsin get a couple more years and have some time. I mean, listen, I don't think it's been fair for Auburn, the fact of the way the scheduling has been, that we keep with the rivalry and the tradition of Auburn, Georgia every year. Is that fair that they got to play in the SEC West, the hardest division in all of college football? And then, oh, by the way, the national champions in Georgia every single year? Like, the fact that Auburn has been able to do that in Alabama's backyard and beat them in Iron Bowls, it's a hell of a job. But sometimes your expectations get floated a little bit too much.
And speaking about what we were talking about earlier, PB, full control. Kirby's got it. Billy's got it. Auburn will not give somebody full control. It's the reason Kirby didn't take the Auburn job, and I wouldn't have taken it either. So until Auburn will give a head coach full control, we are going to continue to see this cycle, and everybody else is letting it up, and the guys behind the scenes, the Geppettos and the Strombolis, they can't give up power.
But how many programs truly are like that right now? I would say Alabama. I would say Georgia.
Florida with Billy, because he said Strick said he'd give it to him.
I think it's getting there, but it's not quite there.
I think Brian Kelly and LSU, because they gave Nick control, so they know giving control works. But again, if you're going to take that step, A&M with Jimbo, he's got full control because he learned it from Nick. That's the blueprint. That's why I think Mario was going to take the Miami job probably anyway, but now he has full control. They promised him that on-campus stadium. They said, listen, we'll go to the richest guys in Miami, which is about everybody on the third corner, and get you a lot of money and get this thing humming. You already see what they're doing in recruiting. So I think until Auburn does that, there may be a year where they sneak up and beat Alabama like last year, playing in Jordan-Hare. Obviously not as talented, but able to fight because it's that rivalry game. But I'm very interested to see, and until they do it, PB, I've grown up watching it. And it's just I don't see how you get over that hump without having full control.
I'll end this in stealing a question, and I'm gonna host. Let me allow the host your show for just one second. I'm gonna go around the horn here. Right. Third best team in the SEC this year is who?
Texas A&M.
Tennessee.
Arkansas.
3 different. I mean, it's 3 different teams, right? I mean, you feel like it's going to be Georgia in the East and it's going to be Alabama in the West. But the fact that we sit here, and I can say Kentucky. I think Mississippi State's going to be damn good with Will Rogers. The amount of things that they have coming back, they're fantastic. I mean, it's again, the league has never been in a healthier spot where you have 2 title contenders in Alabama and Georgia, and a bunch of other guys. And oh, by the way, Texas and Oklahoma are getting ready to come in. I mean, it's why I can keep this sash.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know what? That's a great way to wrap it. TB, I always enjoy talking to you, brother.
Thank you.
Love to get you back on again before the season. I know you're a busy man. Blaine, don't let everybody down. That stash, I want to see it tonight.
It's fun.
When you get done.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I stick to my word.
This isn't the Angels in the outfield thing. It could happen. It's going
to happen. As long as I don't get called from some higher ups, we should be good.
Okay, yeah. We'll find out about that. There is one caveat. That way to give yourself an out.
So this thing, you ain't going to get
You're right.
All
right, brother. We appreciate it as usual. Peter Burns, the one and only. Always love talking to PB. Make sure you subscribe.
All right, if you want to watch the rest of the show, remember, we're going to have the audio here, but if you want to watch it, go to thedailywire.com. Because remember, we're not ESPN, and we don't care what you believe. We're just going to talk about sports and have a good time. So whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, leave a 5-star review, subscribe, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Cone. It's time.
Pew, 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 pew.
Rapid fire.
Super rapid fire here.
Pew, 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 pew.
The Browns signed Josh Rosen to a 1-year deal.
Cool story.
Yeah. Okay, great. Next. Shohei Ohtani is on the mound versus the Braves tonight. There's some speculation, Jay. hold my hand. There's some
What would
speculation.
y'all have to give up?
Huh?
What would y'all be willing to give up?
Be still, my
What would
heart.
y'all be willing to give up?
Dansby.
Oh, what
Listen,
about
all of Atlanta.
No, the only reason I say I like Dansby, the only reason I say it is because there was like a fake Twitter.
Here's what the
fake tweet.
starting 9.
give up Austin Riley?
You give up the starting 9?
No, starting 9 said
Everybody get
their
out.
boldest prediction for the second half is that Shohei Ohtani will be a Brave. Now, the seriousness of this, I don't know. Is the Braves payroll the Dodgers or the Yankees? No. But I'm just going to tell you, fellas, if we could somehow find a way to get Shohei Ohtani with Ronald Acuna Jr.
And bring over Mike Trout. Oh, I'm asking for too much.
That'll
No.
never happen.
Get Dave
What do you give up?
and Mickey Mantle. No.
What would you give up? Austin Riley.
Oh, I don't want to. I feel like Austin's going to win an NL.
You give up?
MVP.
Would you give up Austin Riley, Max Fried,
For Shohei?
and
Wait, hold on.
Wait,
What
stop
do you
with the
mean
and.
look, y'all,
this
look,
isn't-
it's gonna have to be probably a three guy
No.
for
No.
Shohei. Shohei,
Bunch
Give
of picks.
some prospects.
Some
A lot of-
prospects.
a lot of
way. You're getting
solid
Shohei. I need
prospects.
3 guys that are
A lot
I
of
believe
good
in.
prospects.
This guy's pitching and throwing.
I
at the
will
plate.
say, you know what? I would rather them, as crazy as this sounds, and I know everybody would be excited, and off the cuff it sounds great, I would rather them not get Shohei and get Jacob deGrom.
It's a trap.
Because Jacob deGrom may be the second best pitcher / hitter together outside of Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. And I don't want to give up Austin Riley. I don't want to give up Mad Max. The Braves right now, they have there's a good
They're young
energy
and
in the
good.
gym.
There's
They're
good
young
energy.
and good.
Yeah.
They're young and good.
You know?
And they've won it.
We're World Series champions.
If you're young,
That's exactly
if
right.
you're young, good, and gotten over the hump and won it, I think we're okay.
How about this? I want to give up exactly what Alex Anthopoulos says we should give
Yes.
up. Because right now I'm following the lead.
No, yeah.
Hey, believe.
You got to believe.
Yes.
I have to read this mailbag question.
Go ahead,
You
go
guys
ahead.
ready? This is from Michael. Howdy, Cranes and Cone.
Howdy.
I am an American airman stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and I love your show. I wanted to let you know how refreshing your show is and the reach you have. I have 2 questions. My first is, what does it take to become and stay a student athlete? My 12-year-old wants to be an engineer and play college basketball and baseball.
He'd be great at Georgia Tech.
I want to encourage him to follow this, but give him a realistic picture of what it truly takes and what he may have to make decisions that cut 1 or 2 of his plans out. My second question is more of a request. We are traveling from Okinawa to the U.S., and that will be more than a 20-hour trip halfway across the world. My 5 kids watch your show with me, and it would mean a lot if you could give a shout out to Ethan, Emmett, Bailey, Paisley, and Hazel as part of our reward for being world travelers.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, number one, thank you for your service, man. We really appreciate that. You guys, again, keeping us safe and letting us talk about sports like this that in the grand scheme of things really don't matter compared to what you guys do. And shout out to the kids. Thank you guys so much. Y'all be safe while you are traveling. And again, listen to the show for 20 hours. Who knows? You know, but no, again, be safe and look, it's always great to hear from people all over that listen to the show. Again, we're trying to give another outlet to people who are tired of, you know, being told how terrible the place they live is and how terrible they are as people and how terrible their grandparents were. And again, nobody's perfect and we should be able to criticize things and stuff like that. But I don't think people appreciate enough the opportunities that we have. Just ask Brittany Griner right now. But when it comes down to being a student athlete, I've coached at places and I've played with guys that were engineers and unbelievable players. I've gone places where guys majored in sports management and addition and were great players. It's all about time management. And if you want something bad enough, I don't go into it with a mindset of, oh, I'm going to have to cut this or I'm going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul for certain situations. Do as much as you can, but just have structure. Like we talked about with Brian Kelly and LSU. When you put great work ethic and great ability and great want to with structure and saying, you know what, I can have a good time as well, but I have to get this done in this order. I mean, you look at the guys that play at Navy and Air Force and Army. I mean, they're up at 5 a.m. and having to do things that are way more important than sports. And practice is an outlet for them. A lot of guys hate practice, but for people with that type of mindset, and it's such a special mindset because some people go to college with the idea of, oh, I'm just going to have a great time and just do whatever I want. That's not how it works. But if you want something bad enough, if you want to be be a good athlete or a great athlete, and you want to be a great student and be an engineer, and I could never be an engineer because I wasn't great at math or science, and they put it together. But if that's something that you want to do, it's time management, and you can do it. It's not impossible. So don't go into it with the mindset of, oh, I'm going to have to stop doing this. I love doing this, but I have to stop because I love this. No, do as much as you can, and then you can adjust. If you do find it's too much, then adjust where you need to adjust. But set your goals as high as possible, and we appreciate you guys listening.
Man, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's great.
And speaking of goals, 1-1 yesterday.
2. Nice.
Yep. I bet they.
How about you?
2-0.
Yep.
Yeah, they're great.
How'd you do? What about
Yeah,
I was 1-1.
you? Okay.
I was 1-1. Baby Cone was 2.
What'd you lose?
Baby Cone was 2-0.
Yeah, Baby Cone was 2-0.
So we went what? It was
I
4-0,
lost.
5-1, 6-2.
I lost the Giants in the first 5.
6-2.
First 5, the Dodgers were up after 5.
I know. I think the Dodgers ended up winning 9-6.
Matteo Berrettini came through for me.
Yeah, I bet that there's absolutely nothing to bet outside of baseball yesterday, which at least we have baseball now after.
Thank you.
After I was having to bet on, what somebody was going to think next before that. So today and for the rest of this month, you know what me and the Vortex football have in common? We're both nerfs.
Nerves.
So I'm going double nerfy.
Me too. What game did you
Braves, Angels. There's nothing scarier than a brave angel. John 3:19. Give me the Braves, Angels, nerfy, -143. Then give me the Dodgers versus San Francisco in the battle of the highest taxes at -122.
Those are good nerfies.
Nerfies, who knows? Just 1-1, please.
I want Jays Red Sox nerfy at -120 and Padres Mets nerfy at -160, provided that Blaine doesn't take them.
I'm not taking the Mets have done me dirty on all my nerfies.
Good.
But I do have a feeling that a big nerfy today in the Booster Club will probably be Mets Padres. So
Yeah.
careful,
Well,
so.
Cat Eyes is throwing.
Yeah,
Oh, Cat Eyes on the
Scherzer.
line? Okay. 2-0 yesterday, nerfies. Guys, I'm glad y'all came around. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. It works.
No, for
Welcome
sure.
to the club. I've been doing it.
Okay, don't yell.
Just not every day. I mean,
Cone, you don't
it's a
have to
great
yell.
strategy. I'm sorry.
Flaming Dragon Friday.
When I see that mustache, I'm putting.
Wait,
All right.
Oh my gosh, I haven't. Yeah, Flamin' Dragon. I don't
It's
think
okay,
I've.
we're not in the studio. I'll accept it.
Yeah, okay. Well, the last time. somebody-
Liability if I burn
Yeah.
this place.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. The last time somebody burned this place down, it was Sherman marching through here.
Yeah,
We don't
so
talk about that.
I'm taking Giants, Dodgers, nerfy, -126, 2 good arms on the mound. And then, I was looking, and the second nerfy always scares me because I was looking at the Mets, Padres, I was looking at the Braves, Angels. I think there's one more out there.
They're more than just arms.
So I'm gonna take 2 arms that are decent, but 2 teams that can't really hit that well. So give me the Rangers and the A's. -138, nerfy.
You pitch with your legs, by the way.
Yeah. Well,
Lower
power
body
comes
gets
from the
locked
ground
to it. It's not
up.
just arms.
Well, that's probably a little bit of both.
I don't know. We'll get Isaac Newton on the show soon. Does Baby Cone have any bets?
Oh, Baby Cone. Yes. Baby Cone wants Shohei under
Kohei?
8.5 Ks.
Under?
He hit his under on Ks yesterday and his over on Ks.
8.5
He's going
Ks
back
a
to the
lot of
well.
Ks.
Threaded the needle.
Yeah, so under 8.5 Ks for Shohei in Atlanta, and then the Angel, but he does want the Angels to be up in the first 5 with plus a half run at -135.
Okay, so we got a lot of
minus?
Braves.
That's wild.
No, it's plus.
Okay, you said plus. That's what I
Yeah.
said.
Well, the Angels
they're on the
first 5.
road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the Angels are +130 to win the game, too. Just straight money line. But it's going to be interesting to see. Just glad baseball's back on, and we are getting close to football. And, guys, it's Reed's birthday in like 8 days.
Good luck.
Ooh. What are we doing?
What is that?
What are you
supposed
getting
to
her?
What
mean?
does that mean?
I'm not going to say that on the show. She tried to trick me this morning right when I woke up to tell me, but I didn't fall
What are you
for
not
it.
getting her?
Everything but a couple things.
It was a good follow-up.
Yeah, I'm getting her a pony, which
No
actually
way.
makes sense because she does
Don't you have
horses.
Yeah, horses already?
Probably shouldn't say
You
that.
just walk to the house. There's 4 horses in the
Oh,
backyard.
dude, listen, man. It's literally every day I wake up, I feel like Matt Damon from We Bought a Zoo.
You also
so-
get like a little monkey.
yeah. What?
Get a little monkey, run around.
No,
Why not?
because those things get mad enough they rip your fingers off and stuff.
Do they?
You haven't seen the stuff
the
about people
little,
that have pet
the little
monkeys?
monkeys with diapers.
Oh, Google people that had pet monkeys. It's not a
I've
good
always
situation.
wanted a pet penguin. Probably 2 of them
Where would you keep it?
in the house.
It's. I don't. You're gonna wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Maybe like we'll keep it low. I'll bet
Wait. Are you gonna have like a free, like a dog?
You know, I'm just saying this. Like, you can't ever come to the house mad when you open the door and there's penguins.
Are you gonna have
waddling
like a
and
dog-
sliding across the house?
a doggy door to the freezer or something? Like where's? it
Yeah,
gonna sleep?
I'll build a huge freezer for them.
I don't know. When you say things like, I'll build a huge freezer, like it just, I don't know. It's just.
With that mustache and a pet.
With that mustache.
I mean, you're going for the most interesting man in the world.
I think this is how Willy Wonka started.
That really took a dark turn if you really
it really did. I'm going to be watching the first 48 we on it here soon. But no, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on all platforms, TikTok, if you want to, all that other stuff. But we appreciate you guys. Make sure you keep spreading the word. And like the chances of Blaine's mustache making it through the weekend, we're gone.